Hello, guys. This is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and welcome to another live feed. And we are ending eating disorders using nothing but your brain. And when we talk about eating disorders, we're talking about the whole person and the entire eating disorder. So there's really a thought in our society. Culturally, we think of an eating disorder as, a behavior that you manage, right? Like, oh, well, once you have an eating disorder, then that's just who you are, and you always have an eating disorder. And what I want you guys to understand is that with what is possible, with what we do, what we've seen hundreds and hundreds of times and see every day, is that it's not about managing an eating disorder. It's about not having one anymore. Eating disorders are not something natural that you're born with. Some people, they've had disordered behavior since they were really young. But I mean, we've seen people that have no memories. Like their first memories are binges when they are 4 years old. I mean, they have no memories of normal eating. And after over 40 years of struggling, in a handful of weeks, we've worked with them and they're done. Like, they're not managing the eating disorder they've always had. They don't have an eating disorder. And when we're talking about the whole person and the whole eating disorder, hi guys, so fun to see you on. We're talking about the physical behaviors, whether it's the restricting, the binging, the overeating, and we're talking about the mental and emotional piece of an eating disorder. So this is the mental obsession all day long, that a constant hamster wheel in your head of, planning and figuring out meals and thinking about your body, thinking about how your body looks and thinking about what you have to do about this and obsessing over what you're going to have and what you're going to not have. And was it okay that you had that? And is it okay that you're going to have this later? All of that gunk that keeps you from being present and keeps you from being there with the person in front of you that you want to interact with. That's the eating disorder as well. Making decisions in your life around what your eating disorder is saying that you should do, right? Well, I can't go there because they're going to have that food. Well, I can't go there because I've gained weight and I don't want people to see me. All of that is part of it. It's the wholeness that when you root that out at its root, then you can be free for the rest of your life and not have an eating disorder anymore. So I want to welcome all you guys that are popping on. Hello. This is so fun. It's a party. So feel free to say hello, ask any questions, make any comments, and pop in the chat here. If you guys can see me and hear me okay, just say hi in the chat and I'll know that you're here and you're on and we're good. And it's really, really fun to see all of you guys. This is an awesome group. Okay, so when we talk about ending eating disorders, using nothing but your brain, we're talking about not having an eating disorder anymore and ending the entire eating disorder. Now, one difficult thing about having either overeating, orthorexia, like an obsession about, health, binge eating, bulimia, anorexia, food obsession, body hate, all of those elements that go into the same problem that's fixed the same way. When we're talking about that and getting rid of it at its root, this is about being able to have peace. This is about being able to not even have those compulsions or those urges to do those things come up anymore. And I've been there. It's very difficult to have an eating disorder. Like I struggled with that for years. The bulimia, the overeating, the binge eating, like it oftentimes is sort of this revolving door where now you're anorexic, but now it's turned into binge eating. Well, now you're bulimic. Well, now you really can't do that anymore. So now it's overeating, but now you're gaining too much weight. And so you go back to being anorexic. Like it's tough. It goes round and round for a lot of times decades. So what I want to talk about today is that although eating disorders, one element is usually they're very difficult because it's a visual problem, right? Like people can see in public how you're eating in private. So you may eat a salad in front of everyone else, but when they see you larger every time, then they see what's really happening in other areas of your life. And a lot of times there's isolation, like we don't want to be seen, like we, don't go out. We don't want to run into people that, saw our after pictures once we did that diet a couple of years ago. And we look so, I'm going to put in quotes, happy, and all of the morality that we put around being thin, right? And we don't want people to see that we've, have all these feelings of failure, that we've gained all the weight back. So one part of it that's difficult is that it's a visual issue. And I just want to note that the visual part of it is difficult, but there are lots of different reasons why people's weight fluctuates. And we live in a society where there's a lot of morality and a lot of shame around living in a body that's larger than what society says is morally good or what we label as healthy. So I just want to note that that's not okay. There are lots of different reasons why people's weight fluctuates, but with an eating disorder specifically, binging in private most often shows, or a lot of times shows, in public. But what I want to bring attention to today on the live feed, and hi guys, it's so fun to see such a big group of you guys on today, is a really painful version of an eating disorder when everyone thinks that you're fine and you feel like a fraud and you feel like if they only knew. And what we're going to talk about today is all of the invisible eating disorders that so many of us struggle with, that people don't take seriously or people don't acknowledge because it's not manifesting yet as being what society says is overweight. And so we're going to really focus in on 3 of these things. And either you guys have experienced this, or you, after this live feed, are going to be more educated on how to really support people who are suffering in this way, because there are a lot of things that we do in society and in culture, the way that we interact with people, especially women, that makes us a lot worse. So we're going to really focus on 3 things of an invisible eating disorder. Number 1 is anorexia once you've gained back some weight. So this is an invisible eating disorder because people look like a, in quotes, normal weight, right? Like people aren't worried because they're too thin and anorexic anymore. Like they may have rapidly gained, like you may have rapidly gained weight, but now you're in a place where you aren't overweight. So you're in that in between where it's really scary inside, but everyone else is giving you all this praise of like, oh, you're looking healthy, you're looking great. So one invisible eating disorder is anorexia once you've gained some weight back. The other one that we're going to focus on today is binge eaters who haven't had the rapid weight gain yet. So you're binging, but it's not showing up yet. Maybe you have a higher metabolism. Maybe you're early on in your eating disorder. Maybe, you were an athlete earlier in life, or you still are. So you're still doing all the eating disorder things, like you're obsessing all the time and you're binging, but people don't see it yet on your body. It's not visual yet. And that's another kind of an invisible eating disorder, because the invisibility comes from people not looking and making a judgment of this person is unhealthy because they are a certain weight that we're told is above what people should be. And then the third issue, that invisible eating disorder, is bulimia. A lot of times bulimia is an invisible eating disorder because people throw up or purge or, over-exercise in public, but they're eating, or in private rather, but in public they're eating. People see them eating. And so this can be very isolating and alone because your body isn't manifesting to what people see that something's wrong. People don't see you and say, oh no, they're too thin, or oh no, they're too fat. People are seeing you and saying they're fine because of the way that they look. And so we're going to talk about each of these and really how these things are enforced in society and what we can do about it, whether we're suffering or whether we want to support somebody else in that. So, hey guys, so amazing to see you on. Again, this is Lydia, the lifestyle coach, and we are ending eating disorders where people think that everything is fine, but it is the farthest away from fine. So this is a really uncomfortable place to be, really uncomfortable. Because although from the outside, people may have looked at you and said, oh, like you're too thin, that's so scary. You may feel like that was you, like you liked being that thin, like it felt comfortable and good to you. You had that self-praise of like you felt accomplished. And so when you've made a decision to start eating and to get out of your anorexia, the weight gain can be rapid. And it is a really scary feeling in your body. And I've experienced the rapid weight gain as well, is when your body is going back to its set point weight and you feel so foreign in your body. Hey, thank you so much for letting me know, Nicole, that the audio is going out. Oh, I appreciate you guys. You totally got me. I know. I'm having some audio things happen sometimes. I'm gonna fix it, Nicole. And I'm glad that I can fix it because you let me know what's happening. Thank you, thank you. All right, Nicole, will you let me know, is this better now that I have headphones in? Give me a little thumbs up. Give me a little like, I can hear you now. Thank you guys, I appreciate that. So I'm not sure how much the audio was going in and out, but the 3 invisible eating disorders that we're talking about is anorexia, once weight has been gained back. We're talking about binge eating when the rapid weight gain hasn't happened yet, so still looking like more of an average weight, or like what society would say is a normal weight, and then bulimia, because you're eating in public. Okay, so this feeling of, the being in an anorexic body and then coming out of it, then the rapid weight gain is super, super uncomfortable. Thank you for letting me know, Nicole, that you can hear me. Yeah, awesome. And you can't escape your own body. Some of the most awful torture is to be in a body that you hate, that feels so uncomfortable, and there's nowhere else to go. Like, you can't escape it. You live inside that body. So it can be super scary. And usually if people don't get help when they're recovering from anorexia to be able to deal with the binge eating that happens, or be able to deal with all of the things that are still there in their eating disorder, then one of 2 things often happens. Either number 1, it turns into a different eating disorder. So now you've gone from anorexic to binging or to bulimia, and you're rapidly gaining weight and it feels really scary. Now you just have a different eating disorder. Or you feel so uncomfortable in your body because it's different than it used to be, and it feels really out of control. And it's a very scary experience that you go back to your anorexia and then rapidly lose the weight. And a lot of times that can be fatal, especially like the whiplash of going back to the anorexia. You can become, very thin, not have enough body fat, and die from that. So what happens when this invisible eating disorder, like, oh, you're looking so great, you're not overly thin anymore. By the way, with our society, that standard of too thin has gotten lower and lower and lower. What people used to say, oh my gosh, you're anorexic, you're too thin, it's an emergency. Because all of the women that we praise on the big screen, movie stars and musicians, I mean, a lot of those bodies, if we saw them in person, like, that would be anorexic looking. And then we see them on the big screen and we say, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, so healthy. But when your next door neighbor is that same weight, like, that's anorexia. So I want you to realize, like, the thinness of the bodies that we praise is a part of this problem. But if you're anorexic and you've gained some weight back, you're feeling really uncomfortable in your body, but you're getting all of this praise of, oh, you look so much better. This is another big problem, is all this morality that we put around women's bodies of, oh, you look good, oh, you look bad, oh, you look healthy or unhealthy. And we place so much weight on how people visually look, and that is a problem with this. So this can be very isolating because everyone is thinking you're okay. Everyone is thinking, oh, they were anorexic, they gained some weight, they're cured, they're done, they're in recovery, they're fine. And that can be some of the most difficult psychologically, like, torturous part of the eating disorder. And so the next thing that we're going to talk about is, binge eaters that the rapid weight gain hasn't happened. This can also be super isolating because you can't tell anyone about your problem because they just think that, oh, well, no, you're not fat, you haven't gained weight, you must be fine. As long as you're not fat, then you're fine. That's this message that our society perpetuates. And, we've had so many clients that, like, they'll go to a support meeting for overeaters or binge eaters, and they won't be welcome in that room because they're not visually as large as the other people in that room. And people say, oh, you don't have a problem. And this is still a huge problem. This is still torture. This is still an eating disorder. Just because you have a body that weight hasn't shown up yet doesn't mean that it's not completely scary to be out of control with food and to be eating out of control and to be tortured psychologically all day long with that. And then the third invisible eating disorder we're going to talk about with that bulimia. And this is one that we make a lot of commentary on. This is very much the people thinking that you're healthy and fine, and then that feeling of being a fraud, and if they only knew. Because a lot of times this looks like you're eating pizza with everyone else, and people are making comments like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you can just eat whatever you want. You look amazing. Oh my gosh, how do you stay so thin? Like, I love how you can just eat along with everyone else. Like, oh, I couldn't eat any of that. I would gain so much weight. Like, these are the people that are not holding back from eating with everyone else. But then they're getting rid of it in the way that they're not getting rid of it. A lot of those calories are absorbed, and it's a lie that you can use bulimia as a long-term weight management strategy. So we can talk more about that. But, purging is a really serious thing. There are 3 different ways that your heart can stop anytime that you purge when you're bulimic. And so you're getting all this praise, right? Everyone's saying like, oh, it's so amazing. You look so healthy, that you eat so much, or you eat so well, or you must be doing so great, or you seem so happy because you can just eat and be fine. But it's not eating and being fine. It's eating and then feeling so much shame and awfulness around that eating that you're doing something that can kill you on the spot, because your eating disorder is saying it's better to do that than it is to gain that weight, or it is to, keep going and keep that food inside of you. And so as a society, we need to be open to people who are struggling despite what they look like. That's a really important piece of this, because it's a ticking time bomb. It's the mental obsession all the time. Even if people can't see visually that you're struggling, it's the mental obsession all the time. It doesn't keep you from hating your body. Someone can be 300 pounds and someone can be 100 pounds. And those 2 people can equally loathe and hate themselves and their bodies. Yes, we live in a fat phobic society where there are a lot of like social and societal consequences for not having a very thin body. That's absolutely a factor. But that internal self-loathing does not have to do with weight. You can be any size and still feel that all day long. And a lot of times people, when they're done with this, when they don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, when it's like, this is the way that it's been for so long, this is torture every single day, I hate myself, I hate my body, I feel out of control with food, I've tried so many things, everything has made it worse, I've been trying for years, decades even, and not seeing that that's ever going to get better. Like, if they don't have good information, like if you're going throughout your life and you don't see light at the end of the tunnel, a lot of times people will take their lives when everyone thinks that they're fine. And so for us to be aware of this is so important. And being in a society that makes all of these comments thinking that people are okay and people are well as long as they're thin is just not how we're going to fix this problem, you guys. Like, yes, we know exactly how to end eating disorders. We've done it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times for people all over the world, men and women, and all the other options. We know how to fix this problem, but this problem is perpetuated by these ideas we have in society that as long as you're thin, you're okay. And the problem is that it's all just a ticking time bomb, because the mental obsession is torturous. And physical issues still happen. I mean, you can look like a completely normal weight and everyone's praising you for how healthy you are, and you purge one time and your heart stops, or you have an esophageal tear and you die or choke, or like, I mean, there are lots of ways to die when you're looking thin to everyone else. So just having that awareness is a really important thing, that a lot of eating disorders, although it's difficult when it's visual, it's also very difficult and isolating when it's not a visual thing. So what do we do about it? How do we fix this? So one thing that you guys just be aware of in your life is how much commentary and judgment we put on if somebody is okay and looking okay, right? So like a weight that seems acceptable in our society. So one thing that you can do to really help with this is to stop making comments on women's bodies. Now, I say women's bodies because women are very much more affected by this than men societally. So there's a lot more moral judgment and comments on women's bodies than men's. It doesn't mean that's not a problem for men, and we've helped many men. But when we talk about commentary on someone's body, a lot of times it has to do with, that how we treat women in our society. So these are a couple of examples. Oh, you look so great. when someone is just looking thin, right? It's like we've seen that they've lost weight, and so we say, oh, you're looking so great. Or how on earth are you so healthy, when we see them thinner than they used to be? And they could be a lot less healthy than they were when they were larger, because they may have gotten thinner in a very unhealthy way. But we equate health with thinness. So, oh, you look so healthy. Think of how early this starts. We comment on little girls' physical appearance. Oh, like you look so cute. You look so pretty. Oh, look at that. Oh, how does she stay so thin? We have a lot of moral praise around people having control, and we put morality around it if they're not eating something. So if everyone else is having dessert and they're not, oh my gosh, you are so good. Think of how clear of a moral statement that is. Oh, you are being so good. Oh, you're so good. Oh, you have so much control. Oh, you're so healthy. When somebody is withholding food from themselves. Now, there are plenty of reasons that they could be doing that, but notice how we put that morality and that judgment around it. And then we start worrying about people when they're gaining weight. Maybe if they were an anorexic size and then they're more, average weight, then we praise that. But then, anything above that, especially if there's a close relationship, especially, with family, are you okay? Like you're not looking very healthy. Oh, you've gained weight. Like, what's wrong? So we put all of this bad and wrong around a larger size. We put all of this good and right around a thinner size. And that's a huge part of the problem. So what you guys can do is just be aware and stop commenting on women's bodies. Stop saying that they're good when they're thin and they're bad when they're larger. You don't know what's going on, and that's going to be a huge piece of it. I mean, I'll give you guys an example. The couple of weeks before some really big things happened with my personal eating disorder. So it was like 2 weeks before I passed out in the gym. I passed out on the floor. I could have hit my head. I could have died. I passed out in the gym and I couldn't get back up. And I lost my pregnancy. I lost a baby and I passed out in the gym. That was the state of my body with my eating disorder. That was the state that I was in. Just a couple of weeks before that, I cannot remember a period of my life when I got so many compliments on my appearance. People were coming up to me at the gym. Oh my gosh, you look so amazing. I've been seeing you getting leaner. Like, tell me your secret. You're just doing so well. I can see how good you're doing. Look at all this moral language. I went to some business meetings and I had people literally from the back of the room after my presentation walk up to me. Oh my gosh, you are looking so good. Man, you are just looking amazing. What are you doing? Like, you look so fit. Like, have you lost weight? Like, I think you've actually lost weight. Wow, you are glowing. You look so healthy. These were the kind of comments that I was getting when my eating disorder was so bad that in 2 weeks, I passed out in the gym and I lost a pregnancy. I was not healthy. My body was not okay. I wasn't glowing with health. I didn't have amazing self-control. I wasn't an example that people should emulate. And it was in that state of my body that I got the very most praise and compliments. So I want you guys to understand, the impact of perpetuating this morality is a really big deal. And then the other piece of how we're going to fix this is to start addressing the full person and the full eating disorder. That is why everything we do is about ending the eating disorder all the way at its root and not putting a Band-Aid on it and not trying to manage this. So, I mean, for some of the most extreme treatment for an eating disorder, like taking 8 weeks off of your life, leaving your family, sometimes losing your job, going to a facility, being told that you're never going to fix this, that the sooner that you just admit that you're powerless, the better. You have no control, plan to be back here every year. Insurance says that they're going to cover it, but then they don't because you didn't stop doing the behavior because it just made it worse afterwards. People are in $60,000, $100,000 of debt after these experiences. Some of the most extreme treatment for eating disorders. There is a
97 to 98% failure rate. And when we're talking about the 2 to 3% success rate, you guys, this is about only the small piece of an eating disorder of not doing the behavior. So someone can maybe go for a couple of years and not binge. And during that whole time, they still have an eating disorder. They still have a mental obsession. They still hate their bodies. All of their decisions are still based around that. They're not able to be present. Like, it's torturous. But those are the 2 to 3% of people that would be called a success. Because when most treatments for an eating disorder treats a very small part of it, which is the physical act of an eating disorder. And an eating disorder is way more than that. And even with just treating that small part, there's a 97 to 98% failure rate. Interestingly enough, the more casual and more accessible treatment that people do when they struggle with food is a diet, which also has a 98% failure rate. And that's not even talking about ending the whole eating disorder. That's just talking about the small part, which is the weight. Like, oh, let's see if we can lose some weight. 2% of people might be able to keep it off for a few more years. 98% of people gain it back. There is an eating disorder industry that is grossly ineffective. And one reason for that is because they're trying to fix a small sliver of the actual problem. When you get at the root of what's happening, when you end the eating disorder at its origin, so that the eating disorder doesn't happen anymore, then you don't have an eating disorder. And that means the physical manifestation is gone. That means the desire, the urges to do those physical things are gone. That means that all of the mental obsession is gone and you're free of that. That is freedom, freedom through and through. And that's what we're talking about. That's why we do what we do. That's why women from all around the world, we had a client who graduated, it was a while ago now, but she 5 times had already checked into one of the most extreme treatments, like into a center, taking this time off for her life. And what was most discouraging for her is that she would go back, and after 5 times, when she went back and back, she'd see the same people, and they were all worse than they were before, and her problem was never fixed, and their problem was never fixed. And she just started seeing it as such a death sentence. And then she came and she worked with us on the principles to really be done with this all the way. And in about 6 weeks or so, completely free of the behavior and the urges and the psychological piece of it. So I want you guys to understand that this problem can be fixed, but we've got to stop perpetuating these ideas in society that keeps people in this cycle of being praised when they're getting less and less healthy and their body's being commented on. And when the problem is there, like when the eating disorder is there, we've got to start treating people as whole people and talking about an eating disorder as a whole and fix it as a whole. Because when we put Band-Aids on it of like, let's see if we can get the weight gain to go away. Let's see if we can stop the behavior. When we do it in piecemeal, it's just a ticking time bomb and it's going to come back worse than ever. It just keeps on getting worse. And so if you're in that place where you're tired of working so hard and seeing it come back, of doing so much and seeing it get worse, of the isolation of people maybe telling you that, oh, well, you're fine. You're not fat. As if that's the determiner of if you're fine or not in your life, or if you're healthy or not in your life. If you're tired of that and you want to be done with this all the way, the first step is you've got to get the foundation of freedom. And we get the foundation of freedom through being able to have a one-on-one session. And we do this as a free service for those who want to truly be done with their eating disorder and truly have that freedom. This is not for everyone. This needs to be a high priority for you to fix the eating disorder. You need to be willing to show up coachable and to show up for yourself and to have that time where you're present. And if that is you, if that is the case that you truly want to be done, you can go to lifewithlydia.com just go to lifewithlydia.com and it'll get you there. But it says a free session and you can click on that and you can book a session with us. And we can get you to that place where you're have the foundation of freedom. And then we're going to give you next steps so you can know how to be done with this, or we'll be able to direct you to someone who can help you with what you are struggling with. But that foundation of freedom is first. So you go to lifewithlydia.com, you can book a session, have that time set aside and just guard it. That is that sacred time for you to show up for yourself and show up for you. And we can get you to the other side of this. We can get you to that breakthrough. And so that free breakthrough session is you go to lifewithlydia.com, you can click on book a session, and just be aware as you guys are out in society of how much we are judged and praised and by our physical appearance. And just give yourself a mission today. Give yourself a mission to go throughout the day and to not comment on women's bodies, to not make it into a moral thing. Even better, yourself. When you look in the mirror, to not make those moral comments about you. And then if you're really serious about getting done with this, then you can book a free session. We're going to help you with that foundation of freedom. So it's been so fun to see you guys on. Thank you again, Nicole, for letting me know that the audio was in and out. If you guys could make a little comment and let me know at the beginning, could you still understand me, or was it pretty choppy? And we might want to do a little recap or a reboot of this one if you guys are missing some of the audio there. So thank you guys so much. Just love this community. Thank you guys for being an amazing support for each other. And this is Lydia, the Lifestyle Coach, signing off. Mwah. Bye, guys.